probably one of the most robust responses to cold stress that I have seen in the literature is the robust increase in norepinephrine in the locus coeruleus region of the brain. Norepinephrine in the brain plays a very important role in focus and attention and vigilance, also in mood. So it makes you feel better. Norepinephrine is something that's actually pharmacologically targeted quite often, so it's used to treat depression and also ADHD, but it can be released by cold shock. And what's very cool about norepinephrine, in addition to being a neurotransmitter, it actually acts as a hormone as well. And we also release it in our body because it causes vasoconstriction, and that's one of the mechanisms that we use to conserve heat when we're cold. So another mechanism that we use to generate heat is also related to norepinephrine, and that has to do with increasing mitochondrial biogenesis in your adipose tissue and in your muscle tissue. The mitochondrial biogenesis occurs with cold exposure. You can think about it, it makes perfect sense, because as you generate energy, as a byproduct, you generate heat. And so this is an adaptive mechanism that occurs to help you warm up when you're cold. So this mitochondrial biogenesis that happens in the adipose tissue is often referred to as browning of fat. And the reason for that is because if you look here at the mitochondria, this is a black and white micrograph, but the mitochondria are like darker in color. So you can imagine when you have more of these in adipose tissue, which is white, it appears to look beige or brown, so it's a little browning color. Also, as you have more mitochondria in your fat, because fat is, it's where you're storing the most energy, you start to burn that fat because the mitochondria are trying really hard to make heat because they want you to not die, they want you to, to warm up. The side effect is that you actually burn fat, and so a lot of people like that as a potential mechanism to treat obesity. This is all regulated by norepinephrine. So that's very interesting because I just talked about norepinephrine, how it regulates mood, focus, attention. It makes you feel good, helps with anxiety, but it also appears to regulate this. Adipose tissue is not the only tissue that mitochondrial biogenesis occurs. It also happens in muscle tissue, and this is another electron micrograph I took. It's a little closer up. It's not muscle, but you can see the mitochondria they come in different shapes and sizes. And the ones that are longer, that's actually two mitochondria fusing together, exchanging all their mitochondrial DNA and all their mitochondrial content. And the ones that are like oval shaped are ones that have actually broken apart after they've exchanged all their content. It's really elegant how mitochondria can repair damage by doing this process, but it's sort of a side tangent. The mitochondrial biogenesis also occurs in muscle tissue. That is not regulated by norepinephrine, that's regulated by another pathway, but it has been shown to be very robust. It activates something called PGC1 alpha. And what's interesting is that if you think about mitochondria, they're what allow us to use oxygen for energy. So if you have more mitochondria in your muscle tissue, then you're going to be able to more effectively use oxygen. And this is why mitochondrial biogenesis in muscle tissue has been shown to improve aerobic capacity, which uses oxygen. And what are my thoughts on doing the cold shocking the body, so going into a cold bath or ice bath after doing aerobic exercise versus strength training exercise where you're lifting weights? And it's a really good question because there's been a lot of differences and conflicting evidence in the scientific literature showing that doing cold water immersion, for example, immediately after endurance exercise appears to improve the endurance exercise. And that's partly because, one, mitochondrial biogenesis is immediately occurring in muscle tissue, so you're improving aerobic capacity. So if you're doing that and then you immediately engage endurance exercise again, studies have shown there's some endurance enhancements. Also, it reduces inflammation, and so when you're doing endurance type of training, that also can help. If you reduce your inflammation, that can improve your performance as well. However, when you're doing strength training, if you're lifting weights, something that you're wanting to cause muscle hypertrophy, then it's been shown doing cold water immersion immediately after that is not good, because immediately after strength training, there's inflammation that occurs, and that inflammation is very important as a hormetic response to activate all these anti-inflammatory pathways, and also it's important to activate some immune cells that play a role in producing IGF-1 in muscle tissue, which helps you, make your muscle grow. Basically, it helps you with hypertrophy. So doing cold water immersion within an hour after strength training has been shown to be deleterious on muscle hypertrophy. So.